Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me for my last video of 2019, the last video of the year, and in fact, the last video of the decade. In just about 2 or 3 weeks, I will be celebrating 10 years on YouTube. The 18th of January 2010 was my first ever video. Now today, we're going to have a bit of a garage update, rounding out the year with as many of the cars as I could currently get here in the storage together, including the 675LT Spider. Now I know a lot of you have been asking me, why haven't you seen that car on the channel recently? Well, there is something slightly wrong with it. That is why I haven't been driving it. Today though, we'll run through all of the cars that are here, the cars that aren't here, the cars that are coming next year, some updates on the likes of the M8 competition, the TVR Griffith, and more further afield as well. But let's get started then. A quick run through of all of the Shmeemobiles lined up here. Today then we have the LT, the Ford GT, the Senna, the G63, we've got the GT8, a friend's GT8, then we've got the GT4 Lisso and the AMG GR Pro. The two Focus RSs and the Supra are currently elsewhere, but I want to show you something that I don't think I've ever shown on camera before, which is to line up all of the keys here currently on the bonnet of the G63, sitting of course on a drying towel, thanks to the guys at GT Shine who have hit me up with a few of those. But here we have the red Focus, the orange Focus, the Ford GT, the Ferrari GT4 Lisso, the AMG GR Pro, the G63, the Senna, the 675LT, the Supra, and the Vantage GT8. All of the different keys, all quite different styles actually. Kind of interesting to see them all together like this. We will of course be talking in detail about this one, the 675LT Spider, but I guess let's start going through each of these. Maybe we should kick off with the cars that are currently missing. Lots of people wondering, where is the Supra? You haven't seen the Toyota GR Supra on the channel for a couple of months, and that is because the car is currently over at my place in Germany. Of course, we do have the key for it right here, the very BMW-esque key, I'm sure many of you know. And another thing to tell you about that is I'm finally going to sort out the number plate situation. You might remember I picked it up from my Toyota dealer, literally stuck the plate on awkwardly down at the bottom and drove it straight into Europe. That is because, being the A90 edition, I didn't want to drill holes in the bumper, but I didn't really have a workable solution. But what we got right here is something that I bought, I think, on Amazon, to be honest. Inside this box is a towing eye bracket that will basically attach it at the front. This is a smaller size number plate. It's legal font size. Of course, that's absolutely important, but it has the minimum border around. You're allowed to have it so long as there is more than 1 centimeter all the way around the outside of the lettering. So that is completely legal to go on the front. It just has to be positioned vertically, which is what we're going to be doing as soon as that car gets back. And the plan behind that is that I'll be heading over to Germany somewhere early in 2020, picking up the car, driving it back home in advance of the 10th anniversary. I want to try and get all of the cars together in the garage at one time. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I'm working on it. That is the intention. So the other two that are missing, of course, are the two Focus RSs, both of which you've seen very recently. The Heritage RS at the moment, actually. I took it out after the pickup from Dub Customs to my dad's house. It's currently with my dad, just because I'm a little bit short on parking spaces, so he's keeping a hold of the Heritage RS at the moment. The Red RS I recently picked up from Mountune, and that is actually over at my home, my apartment here in central London, so that's why it's not here at the moment. So I guess the three missing cars are kind of the babies of the collection, if we can call it that. And then we have the other, all of the big cars, we could say, the GTR Pro, GT4 Lisso, the GT8, G63 Senna, GT and 675LT, all here in the line together. Talking about parking, I have 5 spaces here. It's inside a supercar storage in central London. There are many cars along these kind of lines dotted around. I'm in some good company, but I keep them here because they're private, they're safe, they're secure, they're kept under covers, they're all on trickle chargers. It works very, very well. In addition to those 5 spaces, I've got 3 at my flat in London and 2 at my flat in Germany. But if I'm getting all of the cars together, I kind of needed to get a few more, at least for the time being, especially with some more cars coming that I'll tell you about very shortly. And also, as you know, I'm looking for the Shmuseum, a location to keep them myself, but it's going to be vastly more expensive, as I've said, than keeping the cars here in storage. So I'm trying to find the right location. In the meantime, I am currently just occupying these 2 spaces beyond my friend's GT8. It's kind of cool that we keep the 2 GT8s actually side by side here. We're going to maybe try and swap these around so that I can just pop mine all in a line, the 7 cars or the 7 spaces that I'll have here all together. But it is pretty crazy for me to see them all lined up like this. Now, another thing I just want to touch on quickly as well, some of you have commented that yes, I'm shooting a lot of videos with the cars here in the garage at this time of year. Of course, Christmas and New Year, time to be with friends and family, time to just have a little bit of a chill and prepare some of the plans for the year ahead. And I've got some big plans, some big trips, and as you know from the channel, when I say that, it's probably going to turn into reality. Some big stuff is in the works, but it means for me this time of year is just to sort out the boring stuff in life, accounts, my apartment, everything that's going on, on, make sure all the cars are well and good and have had their services and they're all properly set up, and everything that needs to be done is all basically done, because when the year starts properly, and I think really it gets properly underway towards the end of February into March with the Geneva Motor Show, that is when it's go, 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 lots going on, lots happening, and it's going to get a little bit crazy and wild as always. So please bear with me, we'll have lots more driving content when the weather is better, when the locations are more exciting, when there's a lot going on, and I've got big plans like I said. Let's talk about this one then, the 675LT Spider, and what is happening with that car. I'll head over and start it up in just a moment. But before we do, have a look at the keys that I've got here. These are not the ones that I normally use on a day-to-day basis. These normally live tucked away. I keep one for each car just so that they stay immaculate. So for example, we have the glass crystal key for the GT8. We have the AMG keys that have the Affolter back crest on the back of them. We've got the Senna key in the blue carbon with the blue painting. We've got the others that are all just the perfect condition ones for their respective cars. And then we have this with the key cover from my original 675LT Coupe, hence the cerulean blue stripe with the LT logo and the blue carbon. Now that was actually a gift from MSO when I bought that car, and given the back actually just slides off and on, we transferred it over to the Spider, what, 3.5 years ago now, and here we go. So let's take this over and go and talk about this car and why you haven't seen me drive it for a while. Now there are actually a few reasons. The first, just to rewind a little bit, I took delivery of this car back in July 2016. That means it hit 3 years old this summer. It is now about 3.5 years old, but at 3 years it went back to McLaren to have a full service, an MOT, to have a full and complete check over it, to extend the warranty, and unfortunately a few little niggles were found. In particular, some that were quite time consuming were to do with the paintwork on the front wings. What actually ended up happening is that the panels had a small bit of rust on them, and that should not happen on these kind of cars, but what it meant is that they had to take them all apart, assemble them, get them repainted first, and then reassemble them. Then it had to go back to Topaz to have them re-PPF'd. It's been quite a long process, but what has unfortunately happened since, and this is something that is bothering me a lot, if we just unlock it, pop open the door, because if you don't open the door and open the bonnet, the alarm goes off. And I want to show you inside the bonnet just here, if I can remember where the catch is. It's been a while. It says just pop it open here. Unfortunately, if I turn on my light very quickly, you will be able to spot we have a little bit more here along that front edge, which unfortunately means it has to go back again to have the bonnet painted. Now, I'm not particularly impressed with this. I will just say it is not my only car of this price point that has had to have some painting in the past due to rust on the bodywork. It is not a McLaren exclusive problem, but it does mean that this needs to be fixed. However, that is not the reason, of course, why I haven't driven it. That alone would not stop me from driving this car in the slightest, and generally it has to be said, given it's done, what, 12,000 miles or so over a decent amount of time and been pushed pretty hard along the way as well, it has held up remarkably well. I haven't really experienced any quality issues or problems with my LT Spider, with the exception of the fact that while it was being worked on at the front, something happened. Actually, look, it's 12,500 miles that we actually have on the clock now. Let me just wake it up. One press for power, one press for ignition. Like I said, it has actually been a while since I started it. You can start the car with a trickle charger connected, but that's the problem. Airbag fault. At the moment, the airbags are not connected because unfortunately, in transport back to me, the battery died. Because of the battery dying, the electronics all disconnected, and as a result of that, it means that I would be driving without airbags. It's not a particularly hard thing to fix. It just needs a computer plugged in to reset them because they're not actually broken. It's just the computer thinking that they're broken, but it does mean I'm not going to drive a car like this without airbags on. However, given I haven't started it for a while, let's do this. Let's bring it into life. This is a beatless car. It sounds so good, and that is why I haven't driven it recently. And with the weather outside and the fact that it's on the POR tyres, it's not the best car to drive anyway. So I love my LT. You're going to get that sorted out. I think given it has to go back to have the bonnet painted and blended in, of course, to make sure it's right given my colour choice, you can have that fixed at the same time, and then you'll see it back being driven. It kind of occurred to me that this car is pretty loud. The deep grumble of the 3.8 twin turbo V8 in here. V8, V6, V8, 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 V12, V8 going down the line. Yeah, that's quite loud. I did think about starting them all up at once, but that would be quite a loud noise. Maybe we'll save that for the anniversary video. We'll see. Maybe that will come. Full start just finished. So yeah, actually, to be honest, I should probably go and shut it back off for the time being, although I am going to shuffle the cars around a little bit and pop them back on their tyre cushions. I actually have those stored away at the moment back behind here, spare covers and their tyre cushions, which I haven't been using because I've been moving the cars around a little bit, but these from Kuba basically stop the tyres getting flat spots, so if you're going to leave them parked for quite a while, they're 100% worth using, so as not to have any issues, particularly with very track-focused cars, like some of those that we actually have parked up in this line. Anyway, let me come through and just shut this off quickly. See, it's plugged into the trickle at the moment, which just goes into the front bonnet, but it is a very grumbly machine. Inside here though, just give this a press into silence. But that is why this car has not seen too much usage in the recent past, but it will be back up in action, ready I think for the spring, ready to take it out again on the next few trips. Popping that one back then, let's move on to talk about the two flagship members of the garage, the McLaren Senna and the Ford GT, which I'll touch on very quickly because each of them featured in videos very recently, but I cannot wait for this future garage, the man cave, the Shmuseum, the place where they're going to be stored, where each of these are going to be surrounded by memorabilia, artworks, pictures, photos. I have so many things that I cannot wait to show you as well that I've been storing and collecting. But the Senna is now fully back. Amusingly, this is now, as of the first week of January, going to be 12 months old, which means it needs to have a service. There's also one little niggle of a rattle we talked about at the shakedown, nothing to do with the incident itself, that's going to be fixed during the service as well. That's going to have a lot of action during 2020. The Ford GT has had a very busy 2019, particularly with the absence of the Senna, so it might have a quieter year, but it's a car that I'm going to be keeping. It is so special to me, especially now with the memories as well, and maybe it's going to be going far and wide during the next year too. But basically, these two, pride of place, I love them together. Hopefully we'll be able to get them off on the road together at some point as well, which would be absolutely epic. The two Mercs then, the AMGs that share an engine but are completely different cars. Well, the G63 I picked up in June, so that's now about 6 or 7 months old. I thought I might have it for a year, but I think I'm probably going to have it for 2. I love that thing, having a lot of fun with it. Also the GTR Pro, obviously at this point it's only at about 200 miles, but really this is going to be a track beast. It is so much more of a track-orientated car than the base GTR. I didn't realise how dramatic the differences were going to be just from my first drive during the media launch, but I'll probably update you more on that, and hopefully we'll get a good few laps at the Nürburgring Nordschleife under its belt as well. We've also got the GTC4 Lusso, which of course now has winter tyres on it. The spare wheels, my original set being stored at Meridian Modena, my Ferrari dealer, that is going to be used for a ski trip. In fact, I am surely going to take it across through Germany, down towards Switzerland, I think to the Geneva Motor Show in early March, but also to a trip to the mountains as well, where hopefully we will find some snow and have some skis in the back, because after all, that is what a four-wheel drive, four-seat, practical Ferrari is built for, isn't it? Certainly something I had a lot of fun with back with my FF. So that is the plan with the Lusso. The GT8 is actually now 3 years old as well. In fact, that was also registered at the beginning of January 2017. It was signed off just before Christmas back in 2016 with Dr. Andy Palmer. That feels like such a long time ago that we had the Road to GT8 story, the build, the series going through it, seeing the car being assembled. But this car being 3 years old as well means it now needs its full service, its full check over, to consider whether I want to extend the warranty on it, also to give it the MOT. So that is coming in the next few days as well, both the GT8 and the Senna going off together. That is pretty much it for what we have now, but let's move on to what's coming next. There are 5 future Shmeemobiles to arrive in the garage that we need to talk about, the first of which is the BMW M8 competition. Now, it's been a while since there was a BMW here in the garage, the M5 that I used for blasting all around Europe, and that is exactly what the M8 is going to be doing as well. I cannot wait for the car, but at this moment in time, I do not have an exact delivery date. I hope it's going to be in the spring, maybe early summer, ready and in time for some of the adventures ahead. I'll give you all of the details of the spec in the near future, but very excitingly, I've got something to share with you in January that at this moment I can't say too much about, but believe me, it's going to be very, very cool. The second car to touch on then is the Mercedes AMG A45S. Now, I test drove the car, which was fantastic, but I'm lucky enough to have both the G63 and the GTR Pro. So from an AMG point of view, at the moment, I have popped the A45S on ice. I've not confirmed my order. I might still take it, I might not. I haven't quite decided. I probably need to drive the car again and see what I think, but I definitely would like to spend some time with it at some point, that is for sure. So the next car to talk about, a big one that has been quite a long time discussed now, and that is the TVR Griffith. The new company, the new TVR that launched the Griffith, well, a couple of years ago now. I think I've had the car on order for probably 3 or 4 years. Unfortunately, there is very little news on this front, and it is concerning to me. I know it's concerning to a lot of other TVR customers. I would love to hear a little bit more. We do get some updates, but it's worrying whether there might actually be a car at the end. So at the moment, I do still have my deposit in, I do still have my order in, because I'll be much more sad not to receive a new TVR than if something were to happen to the company along the way, because ultimately, I would love to have the new TVR to support the company, to support British engineering in this respect in the automotive industry, but also because I think it's an epic thing from everything that I've heard about in terms of how it's going to drive. So number 4, we can touch on the AMG GTR Roadster. Now I know what I just said about AMGs, but you know how much I love my GTR, and you know what I said earlier about the GTR Pro being so track focused. That makes me even more keen for the GTR Roadster, so I'm going to touch a bit more on that as well in an upcoming video, but I expect that. I've asked for mine to be quite a late one, so I guess somewhere in the summer, late summer, maybe in time for autumn, but that shouldn't be a problem with the trips and the planning that I've actually got in my agenda for this year. The 5th and final car that I have mentioned so far is the Shelby GT500. Now in order to get a track pack, which of course in my eyes is pretty important to have the big wing, to have the carbon wheels, it does give you the rear seat delete, which isn't ideal. I actually needed to kind of delay the order, so I'm looking towards the end of the year. I'm not going to be an early allocation on the GT500 at all, but it avoids some of the big premiums for the early cars, so overall very worthwhile doing. So that's quite a long way down the line. So in terms of the next cars, M8 Competition, GTR Roadster, TVR Griffith, we don't really know. A45, we don't really know. GT500 towards the end of the year. So that could be 3, and I'm sure there'll be a surprise car somewhere during the year as well. But to think a little bit more actually about 2019, last year I had 7 cars. Now 12 months later, I have 10 in total. In the meantime, 5 arrived, 2 left. So generally, the garage is growing. That's always kind of the intention. There are keeper cars, there are temporary cars. I mean, looking at this lineup, we've got keeper, keeper, keeper. That will go at some point. Keeper, that will go at some point, and that will go at some point. And I think that's always going to be the way. That's going to be what happens down the line. But that's pretty much it for what is coming. That is an explanation as well for why the 675LT hasn't appeared so much recently. Hopefully it'll be sorted out in the very near future. It is a car that is very special to me, and I would love actually to take it on another proper trip, another proper road trip adventure, to really stretch the legs and use it again, take it out and about. And I think that's what's going to happen. New cars are changing their style. They're not quite as emotional to me as some of these cars that I have kind of been through along the way. The GT8, for example, every time I drive it, it is so special. But for today, I think that is it. My garage update with all the keys together, pretty special, pretty cool to have all of these cars. And like I said, approaching 10 years now. 18th of January 2020 will be 10 years on YouTube. What a crazy journey, and I can't thank all of you who have supported me along the way, who have been part of this adventure, the Shmee150 channel, the things that I've done along the way, and I hope you've had a very happy 2019 and a very happy new year as well as we enter the next decade. So thank you very much for watching, guys. That's it for now, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.